Finance Committee meeting of 2023. We've had a nice long break, but we are back getting ready for budget season, which will quickly be upon us. So it is 7:04 on January 12th. I'm calling the meeting to order. And in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel and on Facebook Live on Public Access Facebook page. The following information is provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. To participate remotely from a computer, please use the link attached in the agenda posted online, hopefully. Or from a telephone, dial the toll-free number 888-475-4499 and enter webinar ID 792-737-0353. This agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussion, and as we have 2 members joining us via Zoom, they will be a roll call vote. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any announcements from the committee before we get started? So I would like to make just one announcement. We have a new member joining us, Caesar. We have a 6th member, so we still have 1 vacancy left, but we are very happy to have you on board.
Thank you.
I hope you're ready.
I am. Well, maybe. We'll see.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Our other 2 members are Jay Simeone and Tom Gray. They're both, like I said, you can see them on Zoom. Is there any public? Go ahead, Jay.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment.
Sure, go right ahead.
Just want to mention, for those that don't know already, about the issue with the tax bills, all the lakefront, Hickory Hills, Lake Shirley, Lake Whalum, waterfront properties receive tax bills with a significant increase in assessments. This past Tuesday at the Selectmen's meeting, during public comment, there was huge attendance, and the Selectmen were very generous to let everybody speak during public comment. And I understand the Selectmen are planning at the next Tuesday meeting to have the principal assessor attend to answer questions regarding the significant assessment. I encourage people to attend that either in person or remotely if you are owner of waterfront or Lake Shirley or Hickory Hills or Lake Whalum. And also the lake committees, Lake Shirley, Hickory Hills are trying to plan a meeting for Monday afternoon, the 16th, possibly at one of the schools. Location hasn't confirmed yet. We're trying something for Monday afternoon to get all the members of waterfront properties on Lake Shirley, Hickory Hills, Lake Whalum together to discuss the issue, and to also make sure that homeowners that may own property but are not living on the lake are aware, because not everybody receives their tax bill in the mail, that I do. Thank you.
Do you have any idea as to where that's going to be posted once you have a location?
I'm sure it'll be posted through all the social media sites, through Hickory Hills and Lake Shirley, Facebook. I don't believe there is an association for Lake Whalum. I'm not sure how those people will be contacted. Hopefully they're, paying attention, get something through Facebook.
Sounds good. I encourage everyone to go back and take a look at the Tuesday night meeting with the select board. It was interesting, and I'm sure they have their hands full. Any other announcements? All right, moving on to public comment. Is there any public comment from, I don't see any public, so any public comment from the public? Perfect. I don't have much of a chair's report other than a welcome, and Jay, I was going to mention the same thing that you just mentioned, so that works for me. So thank you for mentioning that. Let's move right along to our town manager and finance director reports.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Happy
New Year.
Haven't seen you
Too.
in quite some time, so hope everyone's New Year's starting off well. But so I guess I can go back to previous town manager reports that I gave during December as a starting point. So some projects that have completed, like the public safety building chiller project that is now complete. We put out to bid and are proceeding with the town beach building project, and that will be done before the beach opens. The master plan, an RFP was put out for that, and those bids are received in January as well. And the 30 School Street abatement and demolition project is currently out to bid, and those bids are due in mid-February. So that project will be done this spring. So we'll have updates on, once those are closed out, any funds that can be reappropriated to future capital projects. And as part of a upcoming select board meeting, not this coming Tuesday, but probably a Tuesday thereafter, I'll give a more comprehensive update on all the capital projects and where we are with each of those funding sources. But I would say we're approximately 50% through both this year and last year. There are a number of factors for certain projects that have held up moving them forward, such as the Ritter building and such. The Flat Hill Road culvert project, that's going to be put out to bid soon. So that will be done, though, in the fall. So those funding sources won't be fully expended until the project's complete.
Are you considering it to be complete if it's been purchased, for example, a vehicle that's not being delivered until 2024, or are you doing purchase on, it's complete once it's delivered and closed out?
The, once it's delivered, I would consider it complete in case there's anything, but those funds are shown as deducted from that line.
Okay.
So we know what the true balance is of what we purchased it for or such. So there were two transfers within capital years. Fiscal 21 had an overage that was covered by a surplus, but with another department between two different capital items. Same with 23. The two-way radios came in under budget, so there was a surplus in that capital line within fiscal 23, and it covered some overages for the DPW capital projects within that fiscal year. So, and the capital planning committee was notified of both those as well.
Will facilities and DPW have different budget lines
This year? Yes.
Okay. Okay.
They are different budgets within, at town meeting, how they're voted.
Okay.
Anyways, it's, yeah, but they'll be line item, they'll be separated out more. Let's see. The Ritter Break Room project, that is almost complete. They've made significant progress in the last couple weeks. They brought in all the cabinets that are made at Montytech. So that project has gone, I think, pretty well. The students were very respectful. Workspace, that's the comments I heard back from staff. So that was nice to hear. And it's always good to utilize students at Montytech for projects. It definitely saves us money, gives them experience in the field, and overall works out well. They're going to be moving on to the senior center to do their kitchen project, and that was another capital project. We'll, once I know dates and everything, because it's a different specialty, they'll be doing that. The TCP building has required some repairs that we've, the sprinkler system needed some repairs that were identified. So that's comes out of the revolving fund that was set up years ago for that building. And it's expected there's a leak in a part of the building that we're going to be expending some money on as well. And let's see, everyone's 365 is working all right, I assume? Everyone has accounts now and can log in?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Does Caesar have an
No,
account
but-
yet?
Yeah. I
Yes.
think there's a, oh, I
Okay.
do. Okay.
Yes.
I'll follow
yeah.
up then.
Okay, all
Have
right.
to invite him to the,
I did.
oh, you did, good.
Okay.
We'll have to delete his Gmail one.
If not, you have my email address?
Yes,
I can follow
I can
up.
find it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Right. And let's see. I gave a budget update, budget priority update to the board on their January 10th meeting. No, prior to that, January 3rd. And basically outlined target budget, and it's going to be as typical, local receipts increased by $50,000 to reflect the $50,000 expenditure side on pavement management, and state aid level funded at this point until we have the governor's proposal, which due to a new governor coming in, new governors are granted until March 1st to submit their budget proposals. So we won't have the governor's budget until hopefully prior to, but no later than the beginning of March.
Isn't it reasonable then to assume that we're going to have some late public hearings? Because we're not going to have numbers.
We're going to proceed with public hearings
But
and
we're still
meetings.
gonna have a lot of numbers
It will
coming
be a more delayed response of what our state aid and
Right.
on the flip side, the assessments
Okay.
will be.
So we'll have a lot of X's.
Correct.
to fill
That
in.
will add to the unknowns. We use that as our base.
Right.
So
Okay.
without knowing what all the priorities of the incoming governor are going to be and her proposal, then I wouldn't dare make any assumptions. For staffing, what I addressed as for priorities was that our staffing needs would be addressed conservatively in the preliminary budget proposal. We have attained the 5-year staffing plan for the fire department. They did get their paramedic license at the beginning of the month, and just another paramedic was licensed as well. So we're running now on our paramedic license, and so that's great news. They attained that goal, and it's good for the town to have that experienced staff on to address. So I assume they'll be taking on more and more calls as well, given the need for paramedics.
From like other towns, do you think?
Correct. Yeah. That's what
And
I
then
would
do we
assume.
charge them for, is there a
Yes.
revenue source associated with it?
There is charge, but so the chief, I think, is probably the best person to,
Okay, no, that's-
yeah,
yeah.
to ask those questions, but yes. The, and the police department, their staffing plan, their 10-year staffing plan, we're about halfway through. Due to the year 2 impact for the collective bargaining agreement, I may be proposing to hold off on the additional staff for this year and resume that in fiscal '25, that plan. But in other areas, I'm expecting to see proposals for increase in hours for certain staff, but that wouldn't be a huge number, I expect. I'm still receiving some of the budgets, requests as far. And also, that's based on our apparent need of space for people. So adding staff, we need have a space for them to have an office or a space to work. So right now, it's becoming apparent that we should outsource certain things at this point, and we'll look at options later down the road. So also related to that, trash and recycling coordinator, we're going to have ARPA-related reporting and oversight needs with all the funding that we're receiving through ARPA. So outsourcing those needs as well. And also outsourcing grant writing is a need for the town, and that would be beneficial. That would have a positive return on investment for the town as well.
Would that be accessible to anyone that's looking to write a grant that works for the town, or any of the directors of the town, effectively?
That's a possibility. That hasn't been defined.
Okay.
Another area I'll be recommending resources is training. I see that as a need for all staff. We have a very limited budget right now for training, and we usually utilize free training either through our insurance company or different other resources. So making sure that all our incoming employees and current employees receive proper training, onboarding, that's an important piece of how they quickly assume to their roles. Operationally, there are several requests I expect to receive, including additional funding for ADA public rights-of-way improvements, hazardous tree removal expenses, drainage improvements across town, cemetery improvements that were below the $20,000 threshold for capital, facilities and grounds related expenses that includes parks, internet costs for fiber at various buildings, IT equipment, including camera upgrades and replacement of workstations, constructing a small kennel for vicious dogs behind the public safety building, and the library has expressed need for programming expenses as well. And for non-discretionary expenditures, which is health insurance, liability and workers' comp insurances, debt payments, and our retirement assessment, the renewal rate at this point for our health insurance is 8.5%. That's what they told us to budget at this point in the process. We receive our rate range. The Maya Trust releases that next weekend. So that will tell us where we can conservatively pull that back to. And then we receive our actuals around March, usually the beginning of March. So I don't expect it will be 8.5%. I think we'll fall somewhere in between. So the liability and workers' compensation are estimated to increase 5%, and our retirement assessment, what we received was a 13.5% increase. There is pending action, and this is something the select board will need to act on in the near future, as we received today, which I forwarded to them, was because of a change in legislation. The board took action about granting an additional 2% COLA for retirees, and every member town has to, their executive of board of every town has to vote on whether they endorse that or not. So that would be retroactive to July 1st. So I've requested, and they are working on this, what that impact would be if it were approved. And we also are negotiating the clerical union contract, the fire union contract this year, and we have a consultant working on a compensation and classification review, which would be a proposed impact for salaries for non-contractual, non-union employees, and that would have to be raised, we usually fund through the salary reserve appropriation. So relatively early right now, still in the process, but and a lot of unknowns still, but that's kind of big picture view of where we're at.
Are we still on, I know I ask you this by email all the time, but are we still on schedule with the plan that you laid out in like November for us?
So capital plan and financial forecast, I expect still, we discussed the 26th
Right.
as doing that. Right now, I'm obviously focusing on other things. and ascertaining any potential impact to budget or capital plan. So if there's any changes, I'll notify you.
So rather than having an extra meeting on next week, when she will have the numbers, and she's speaking to the select board, I figured we could just push it until the 26th and hear about capital in that time.
Okay, but you can view the capital planning committee's prioritized plan on the website. Everything is up there, including the presentations from the departments.
And we're still on schedule for the different department heads on that
Yes.
calendar as well? Okay. Anything
All
else?
right, no, that's all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Ms. Brochu, anything you'd like to add in?
No, I am all set.
Nothing's happened since November?
Nothing's, well, there's been plenty that's happened, but I think you're already aware of it, so.
Perfect. Well, Happy New Year to you then.
You too, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so let's move along. Did everyone get a chance to look over the goals and procedures document that was sent out? I have physical copies, if anybody would like to have some as well, just to take a look at. I'd like to get this out to the department heads after this meeting, assuming that we can come to a consensus on this. Worst case, we'll send it out. I'll send it around for final review and then send it out afterwards. Let me put it up on the screen for everyone.
Did anything change in it?
Nothing drastically. I took out a little bit, Peter's little note at the very beginning, because Peter's not in here anymore, and it didn't really make sense to what we were doing now. And then I just went through and just changed years to make it kind of flow a little better, but I did not change anything substantive to the actual document.
Yeah, but they look pretty similar.
They should be, yeah. I took Tom's red lines and changed those out a little bit as well, that he had sent over, I don't even know, they were a while ago.
It was a long time ago.
Just,
Oh, I missed one, so we'll change one to FY '22. Okay. Let's see. Let's share the document. Goals and procedures. There we go. Okay. So I will change that one. 24. And unless anybody desperately wants me to read through it right now, I'm happy to let it kind of go as it is. I did change our April 13th meeting. I believe that is correct. For 2023, I believe that should be when our actual public hearing, our first public hearing should be. I'm assuming we're probably going to have two. But that is in there as well.
Is there a typo in B?
It wants a hyphen, probably. It wants a hyphen. We can hyphenate it, sure.
Minus 23. Section B.
right there, through 1H23.
First half of 2023.
Oh,
That's the first half of 2023's, of FY 2023.
Okay.
We could probably just put that in there. Half of FY '23. There we go. Just to clarify it a little bit better. Tom, Caesar, any other additions or anything else?
I had one nit I can give to you after the meeting.
Sure.
It's
Okay.
just small,
Okay.
but other than that, I think it looked good.
Okay. The purpose of this is just to kind of give the department heads an idea as to where we're at. This was started by you, I believe, a couple of years ago. If I'm not mistaken, it kind of grew out of the
Yeah.
48-hour request,
yeah, I think so.
which last year I think went quite well for the most part. We received the presentations in advance. We had a chance to sift through them a little bit to get questions ready to
Yep.
go.
Yep.
So for department heads, I think it would be very beneficial for us to, again, get those presentations ahead of time, give us time to sift through them, work through some questions, and then have a much more useful conversation
Right.
with them rather than just be kind of awestruck with numbers. Okay, so I will plan to send this out to the department heads. I'll probably send it out over the weekend, so if there's any other little adjustments that you'd like, just send them to me directly, please, so we don't violate open meeting law. Otherwise, that works for me, and we can move on to the next one. So our next topic, legislative delegation topic. So I've reached out to Senator Cronin and Representative Kuzmarek, and I found out that the select board did as well, I think 2 days before I did. And I heard back from Senator Cronin, and he mentioned that they would like to come out and talk to us again to have another conversation. Obviously, they would like to wait for our other representative to be sworn in, whether that's Madam Scarsdale or Mr. Shepherd, depending upon how that goes. But he would like to let them kind of get, whoever that is, to get their feet underneath them and get through, I believe, some of the budget process with the new governor as well. Okay. So their recommendation was into March, basically. So it's going to be pretty tight. It's going to be pretty busy. But I think, given our schedule, our March meetings, we're meeting, the 9th, the 16th, the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 30th. So I'm...
We'll go to the 37th.
Exactly. So long as it's probably not on the 16th, which is the school committee or the school department, I'm hopeful that we can get them in, and we may just have to kind of finagle another meeting in there if worst case scenario. But ideally, we can fit them in there with one of these meetings because we have quite a few. Actually.
Evan, is there an argument for doing this after the town meeting?
I have no problem pushing it off to after town meeting.
Are we doing this independently of the select board?
We did last time.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah.
I haven't reached out to the select board. I don't know if it would be beneficial to have it be a joint meeting. I think, Madam Town Manager, correct me if I'm wrong here, I think their conversations would extend beyond where we would kind of go with their meeting with our local delegates.
They'll probably discuss their list of prioritized budget requests for earmarks.
Okay.
As well as any legislation they're interested in.
Right. So the former, we would certainly like to be involved, or at least be sort of, it would be nice to be kind of working together with that one, but the latter, I think, would be certainly beyond our scope. And if they're willing to come out twice, I think it would be beneficial, because we did have quite a lengthy conversation with them last time, where we kind of got into the weeds about Chapter 70 and some of the other stuff as well. Mm-hmm. So I'll stay in contact with Senator Cronin, and if they kind of push to see if we can co-opt the meeting together, then I'll reach out to Mr. Jeffries and see if we want to do it together. Otherwise, I think it is a better meeting to kind of keep it just financial with them on our end, and let the select board do everything else that they can do that we don't have to worry about.
If you're interested, they're going to be coming to our March 7th meeting.
Our local delegation. Okay.
They are. Okay.
Okay. So I'll reach out to Mr. Jeffries anyways, just to kind of pick his brain and see what what he thinks about it as well, and then back out to Senator Cronin. Because March 9th, we have the DPW and we have facilities coming in.
I do think it makes more sense to be after budget season, and then set ourselves up for the next one maybe, because it is a pretty busy time at that.
Yeah.
It certainly is.
And I think anything that we are asking them to do would probably in no way affect this budget season, but perhaps the next one. But
Not necessarily, because this is still going to be for the governor's budget and then what eventually gets put through, which will directly affect our town meeting. Because we have baseline funds that are going to be coming in, state aid and whatnot.
Yeah, perhaps.
I don't know, I'm torn, because I would love to
I
push
just
it.
know the higher you get up in government, the slower everything moves. So
Right.
as slow as it moves here, it's slower at the state level.
Given how busy March is, I would love to push it off after April. But I think that there is certainly a benefit to having them come in ahead of our actual town meeting to talk to them about at least whether, even if it's just to kind of push a little bit harder on them from both the select board and the finance committee ahead of when they actually get through to put their budget through.
Okay.
Because that will, I think, directly affect how much, or not necessarily directly affect it, but at least has the potential to directly affect what comes towards us as a town. Yeah, let me,
I was gonna say, I think if there's an opportunity to put, to get anything that we wanna address at that March 7th meeting, I don't know if there's space to do that, it might make sense. But you see what your conversation is with
that's,
Mr.
so
Jeffries.
if we were to, I suppose if we were to combine it, perhaps we could just do, half an hour section of their meeting with the local delegation. Could be a joint meeting or something like that. I don't know.
My preference would be to have our own meeting.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. I'd like to have them all at the table and explain things to us specifically for our benefit and as well, like I said, to kind of, even if it is to kind of twist a little bit more of an arm, or at least get into a little bit more depth of where these figures are coming from and whatnot. Okay, so for that then, I'm gonna push off these questions. I'm gonna leave it on here as sort of an open-ended conversation. I threw out to Senator Cronin, continuing with Chapter 70 funding with just sort of other ideas for local aid and whatnot, the usual that we would expect. But if there are other ideas, whether it be, perhaps they have some ideas for what other constituent towns are doing for ARPA funding spending. Like I know Lowell, I believe, wants to put in snow machines with ARPA funding so that they can have sledding in the town. Just little ideas, something like that. But if there are other ideas that you think of, please pass them over or pass them along, and I'll happily add them to the list of conversations that we'd like to have with them. All right, this would be a nice quick one. So I wanted to re-look at our committee liaison organization now that we have a sixth member. I thought it might be nice to kind of share the wealth a little bit. So Caesar, do you have the agenda in front of you there at all?
I don't, but I did look over it.
You have it,
and I
okay.
saw some of the committees here, so.
So the way that the committee reports work is that we don't specifically have to attend the meetings when we're the liaison for them, but we're responsible for kind of bringing back information, whether it's that we contacted the chair of that committee, or we watched the meeting afterwards, or we went to the meeting, or we watched it over Zoom, and then we kind of bring back anything that's financially important for the finance committee to kind of know about.
Okay, so then you just give a report here.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, and it works that way all the time. For example, Ms. Archambault is the school department chair. She's our liaison, so she's going to watch this meeting, I'm sure, at some point and go back and take a look as well to report back to the school department. So the list that we have here is just sort of where we are for now. As far as I'm concerned, is there anything that kind of stands out to you? We have a couple, for example, the Municipal Building Design Committee, Tom Gray is actually seated on, so makes sense to kind of have him do that. Parks Department, we have a spouse who is on the Parks Department, so we figure that's a nice, easy one as well, but I don't want to speak for you, Chris, but I don't think that you're beholden to your Parks Department liaisonship.
No.
Are there any that kind of stand out to you that
I
you would?
mean, I'll go wherever you need me to go. It really doesn't matter, but it looks like you have several. So if it makes the most sense for you to like offload some to me, then
So mine are pretty easy.
okay.
I mean, I sit on the Board of Health. Forgot about that one. So I know that one pretty well. Capital planning, we really don't get much that comes through them. It actually comes mostly through the town manager at this point, especially now they're completed, I believe, yeah. So they're completed at this point, so their meetings are, as far as I know, pretty much wrapped up
Yeah, I think they talked about having one more meeting.
after you kind of do your ranking, just to redo everything, yeah. And then Council on Aging effectively has nothing, ever.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to step on anyone's toes, so I don't know, who likes being where or whatever, but
School is always a fun one. That's,
That was what I was gonna
it's,
suggest.
Yeah.
it's a long meeting, but
I figured if anywhere, that would be,
wanna,
that would
it's
be
70% of our
substantial.
budget though, or something, so.
Yeah.
Not quite 70, it's like 55.
50 something, I think.
Okay, 55. sorry.
55% of our.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, if that makes the most sense, I'll do that.
Okay. So for that one then, I would just reach out to Miss Archambault and just kind of
Okay.
let her know. I'm sure, like I
Cool.
said, she'll watch this meeting at some point. Their meetings are typically on Wednesdays. I think their next one's coming up this coming Wednesday, the 18th. And she can send over the agendas. I have the agenda. I can pass it on to you if you don't have it yet.
Okay.
Because it's going to be a remote
For
meeting.
the school.
For the school department.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I don't have it, so.
Are there any, is anybody looking to offload anything else at this point as well? I see lots of heads shaking no. Okay. Like Chris said, that's the bulk of it anyways. That's
Yeah,
going to be,
yeah.
I mean, those meetings get to be 2-3 hours long.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving along to our October 13th, 2022 minutes correction. So we've had a snafu kind of going on for a couple months now. Where, if I remember correctly at this point, and Amanda, feel free to speak up if you'd like to. We had trouble kind of figuring out who had seconded something, a motion and whatnot. So we sort of just, as far as I know, Chris, it was your suggestion, we could just sort of accept it as it is.
Well, the minutes probably should reflect what happened, I guess, what was it, a recommendation for town meeting?
Oh, I actually
Was
didn't.
that the vote?
Let me,
I did reword how the vote went, because it was just to defer anyway. So I can't remember right now exactly what I wrote, but I'll see if I can find it, unless you're gonna find it.
I have it open. Do you remember? I can share it real quick. Just so we're all on the same page. There we go. There we go. No. Is it Article 15?
12.
12? Okay. So we have override denial of certificate to alter Ritter Building, new windows versus restoration of original windows. Committee members discussed whether there was a financial impact of this article. Mr. Simeoni figured that since the FY22 capital plan funded alterations of the building, the article would not have financial impact. Mr. Gray pointed out if the current windows aren't replaced with new windows, there could be a financial impact on future budgets when it comes to heating the building. Mr. Baelish agreed that the article does have a potential financial impact. Committee members ultimately decided to defer to special town meeting. So I suppose at this point we could.
I would just accept the minutes as they are. I don't think there's any
Okay.
major issue. It was a
Is there an
deferral.
issue with, if we just accept it, if we don't have a motion and a first and a second?
Yeah, I didn't make a motion, it wouldn't.
We did at some point, but it was difficult to hear in the video who actually motioned and seconded.
No one recalls who.
No, this is October.
I wasn't there.
That's your excuse. I mean, I suppose we could,
I can tell you that it was a motion, motion made and seconded. Yeah, it was unanimous.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So as long as we add in there that that a motion was made, that it was seconded, and that we have a unanimous vote.
Because, yeah, the minutes should reflect votes of.
Right. Okay.
I can make that happen. I can amend the minutes.
Okay. Does someone want to, I would happily accept a motion to approve those minutes while we're at it then.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes as amended in this discussion.
I second it.
All right, any discussion? Excellent. Let's do a roll call vote. Mr. Simeoni?
Aye.
Mr. Gray?
Aye.
Caesar, could you actually pronounce your last name for me?
Sure, it's Nuzolo.
Nuzolo.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't want to mispronounce it.
That's fine.
Mr. Nuzolo?
Aye.
Mr. Baelish?
Aye.
Mr. Menard?
Aye.
And an aye from myself. We are unanimous, and we've accepted those minutes. Thank you, Amanda. I'm sorry for all the trouble with that.
Me too. I'll speak up next time.
No, that's okay. We have one other set of minutes in the drive from November 10th. Have people had enough time to kind of look through those at all?
Yep.
At least well
Honestly,
enough?
I couldn't sign in for some reason. I don't know why, but I couldn't sign in, so I haven't reviewed them.
Okay.
I can just
Abstain if need be.
abstain.
Mr. Gray or Mr. Simeoni, have either of you had a chance to look through them yet?
Yeah, I went through it.
I have not.
You have, Mr.
I
Simeoni?
did not.
Okay. So we would have 1, 2, 3 out of 6, so let's just kick it for the time being. All right, so I'll leave those in the drive then, so we can get a chance to take a look at them. That way we can vote on them appropriately. All right, so moving on to committee reports. Do we have any committee reports? Mr. Baelish?
I do not.
Excellent. Mr. Gray, anything from Green Communities or Land Use or MBD?
Yeah, we just had a meeting for the building, design committee, building use committee, just before this meeting. And we discussed using the hybrid plan that pretty much we think we agree on. What kind of things would happen as far as codes and requirements. So, for example, if we did work, we added the addition to Ritter, what would that mean as far as what we'd have to do with the other part of the building? And there were things like, for example, in Town Hall is currently under business use if with offices. If we made it just meeting space, would that affect a change of use of the building? And would that mean we'd have to do a lot of other things that maybe we didn't want to do? So we weren't planning on doing. And so those things came up, and we had a very interesting discussion. Didn't have a full staff of people there, but very interesting. So we're going to be meeting later this month again, and hopefully work more detail about it.
Is there any plan to bring anything forward just to annual town meeting? Or is it too early to tell us though?
Yeah, we still, I mean, every time you turn over a rock and something, there's 10 of the things that you gotta put into plan. So I don't really know. I don't think, we might be able to, but I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Mr. Menard, how's the parks doing?
Parks are good. I don't have anything to report with respect to parks.
Okay, excellent. Mr. Simeoni, anything from DPW or sewer?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. I have nothing for Board of Health, for capital planning, other than just capital planning has finished their ranking, which Madam Town Manager already explained. And we'll have a report on that on the 26th of January from the Town Manager. Council on Aging, I don't have anything from them. As far as the school department goes, the big things that I have so far are they have been presented with the school department's proposed budget. I don't believe they've voted on it yet at this point, but they at least have had the initial proposal. If I remember correctly, the overall budget request increase is around 3 to 3.5% total. If I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's around 3%, 3 to 3.5%.
I think it's 3.15.
Something like, yeah.
Not 3.16.
Should be pie.
Exactly, should be pie. And then the other takeaway that I got, which was interesting, is that they are proposing to pull away from using an IT service and actually moving back to an IT director again. They have felt that it was a good service, but that they want somebody sort of in the building at all times, or at least in the district at all times. So I'm not sure how that's going to go, but that will certainly have a direct financial impact.
Yeah, sounds like a horrible idea, but,
Not our call, unfortunately, or fortunately, I should say.
well, I think it is our call to make a recommendation on it.
Well, that's assuming that the school committee approves the budget that way. They have not approved it yet, so this was just at the school department's recommendation. And they had some questions on it.
Yeah, all right. Can't wait to hear about it.
Mr. Beardmore will have some conversation, I know. So that's all that I have for the school department. For future meetings, are there any burning issues that anybody would like to bring up in the next few weeks before we really get into budget season at this point?
We may want to have an agenda item just for discussion. I think I already mentioned this to you though, but for the assessments and what that would mean if a lot of abatements were put forward and that sort of thing. I'm interested to hear the next week's presentation on some of the facts and data that went into the assessments, so.
Okay, happy to put that on the 26th.
Maybe we talk nothing, but
At least have it on there, right? Yeah, we can't have the conversation now because it's not on there. Any other topics anyone's interested in? Excellent. Moving on, is there any public comment from the committee? Hearing none. Any public comment from the public? Seeing none. We have upcoming meetings. So just the usual at this point, January 26th, February 9th, and February 16th. Those are going to be the 26th and the 9th are the last 2 weeks that we have, or the last 2 meetings we have before we actually kick off budget season. The 16th will be the town manager's budget presentation. So that will officially kick us off. And then on the 23rd, we'll have the Council on Aging, the Land Use Director, and the library giving their presentations for budgets.
I'll be unavailable on the 26th.
On the January 26th?
January 26th, yeah.
Okay. Traveling, again. We don't want to call in from UAE. The only other item on here is the MMA trade show is happening January 20th and January 21st. It's a Friday. I've had a bunch of emails going back and forth with Ms. Peterson, with Madam Town Manager, and with our Finance Director about reimbursement for it. And as it stands right now, registration is $275. We currently have $493.06, I believe, sitting in our meetings fund that we can cover funds for. So at this point, we have enough to fund effectively one and like 7/8 of another person to go. So it's sort of up to people at this point. My intention was to go anyways, but if there's anyone else that wants to go, we could certainly have a discussion as to how we can kind of finagle the account. There is nothing at this point that we can do line item transfers from anywhere else. We are taxed out, it seems, for other funds. But if anyone else is interested in going, please speak up, let's have a discussion on it, and we can figure something out for sure. Anyone just itching to go into Boston on Friday and Saturday? No? Okay. All right, I will bring back a report from that for sure then, so that will be our February 9th meeting. Actually, no, our January 26th meeting, because that's next week that this is happening. So I'll put that on there as well. Other than that, yeah, I don't see that there's anything else for this evening. So I will entertain a motion for adjourning.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.